Connect the Dots. Welcome to another edition of Connect the Dots, a podcast where we bring people from various walks of life to talk to us about whatever it is that they are into that can serve as a lesson to people watching. And today we went all out to bring you a young poet, will I say, and she started writing about 5 years ago or more, even though she's just publishing the first book that she wrote, and it took her a long time to get to this place. A young, I wouldn't say adult because she's still a teenager. And this is interesting because poetry is something as old as mankind, as people live a journey through life with books, poetry, and all that. So it's no one but a youngster, Maryam Mairiga, even though she would give us details about birds and other things in between because she's in SS2 or SS3, right?
Yes.
She's a student of SS3 and she's still a teenager. And it's really a great pleasure to have a young person doing a lot aside poetry. She does other things. She's interested in starting a coffee shop and other businesses. And really, I'm interested to see the way things will pan out at the end of it. Welcome to the podcast, Maryam.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you. So I think let's know you first. Your name, your full name, and where you were born and all that.
My name is Maryam Umar Mairiga. I was born in Abuja, here, this particular estate, and I'm originally from Gombe State, but so basically I've lived my entire life in Abuja. So I want to change that, like maybe try living abroad or something. I started my education in Rahman International School, which is now Sheikh Abubakar Gumi Academy Saga. I did my nursery 1 to 3. I proceeded to Esteem International School in 2011, where I received my elementary education and graduated July 2017.
Okay.
That same year, I started the memorization of the Holy Quran around December 2017.
Okay.
And Alhamdulillah, I completed the program July 2020. That same year, that's 2017, I proceeded to Starfield College, where I'm currently in my final year.
MashaAllah, that's really elaborate to know that a young person can give details of the way they started their education journey and all that. So we'll start exploring why you started writing your book before we go into other aspects of your life as a young person. So this is your first book. Where do you get the idea to write a full book from? I mean, for a young person still in secondary school?
I've had the urge to write ever since I could make sensible sentences. And when I started this secondary school, Starfield College, which, by the way, is proprieted by Mrs. Maria Sani, our director, and her co-director, Mrs. Bilkisu Ado, and the head of school, Mrs. Asma Amin. So they provided a literary and debating club, which likes this kind of extracurricular activities for students. And in this club, our patrons specifically, I would have to mention them, Mr. Ahmed Olaiwola and Mr. Godwin Abo Ansoni. These two people played a huge role in me starting to write because they pushed us extra than they pushed the others. Okay. They engaged us in debates, quizzes, competitions, spelling bees, and a lot of uplifting and motivational stuff in and outside our school. As a matter of fact, I was one of the students that contributed to one of the anthologies that we made. It was called Etoils. So we had 3 different publications for the Etoils. We had Etoils 1, 2, and 3. So starting that way, I think that gave me the exposure and closure I needed to tackle a big book.
Can you tell us briefly about the anthology that you contributed on?
Okay, the anthology was basically supposed to be a club thing, and which our school had this Starfield Star Showcase. That was what they called it. So every club in the school would showcase something that they've done over the term. So it was an idea that we brought, I and a friend of mine. We brought it to the table and we discussed with the patrons, and they accepted the idea, they welcomed it. So we started gathering from interested persons in and out of the club, as long as the person was a student of the school. So we gathered those anthologies, and we merged them to one. I think I have about 7 to 8 poems in that anthology, and that came out in the first one. I think the second one was kind of repeated, but there was a little bit something different in the second book. And the third one, I think I should have around 3 to 4 inputs.
So when did you start writing your book, and what's the title in the first place?
The title of my book is My Step Monster. I started writing it without knowing the name of the book because that was the last thing I had to do. So I started writing this book around December 2017. I'm talking just as 1 year, and it wasn't really. I didn't start writing it thinking it would come this big and I would, become something out of it. I just started writing it to be a short story, not knowing I would actually love the content and go deeper into it.
So tell us about the book, what it entails, the chapters, the motivation behind them, and how you got to this point that you are today.
My Step Monster is a 21st century anecdote which recounts the story of a young girl, Amani, and her family. They've suffered losses because the father died, leaving a message of his last will that his wife remarries up to his death. So, there's so much bigotry when, especially in Nigeria, should I say the northern part of Nigeria, where if a woman's husband, pass away and they just kind of feel you should not get married or you should not move on that easily, you should just keep lamenting and grieving, which I a little bit portrayed in the book. So it had different themes, and the themes I would want to very much speak about are the themes of friendship, family love, and conflict resolution. In My Step Monster, Amani seemed to be a very strong girl for her family when they were going through hard times, and she was able to differentiate. She was able to set her priorities straight and was able to differentiate between right and wrong when needed. So when you look at family, a family is supposed to be united, supposed to be there for each other, same as friendship. But in the book, there's a character, Zaitun, who is Amani's best friend. Amani is the main character, she's the antagonist. So Amani basically had a fight with her best friend, and the best friend, being as naive as she decided to kind of back out of the friendship, and that was the time when Amani's father died. And you know how when people are kind of in this situation, when they just need people to, comfort them and make them feel at ease, her best friend was not there. So that was just something a little captured to show that, a true friend is somebody that's always there for you when you need them. Not just somebody that takes you out, have to go hang out every day. The person should just be there when the time is needed.
You need them. Yeah. Okay, so what's more interesting? What chapter is more interesting in the book, if you would say, for yourself?
For me, the most interesting chapter was when there's Amani's Zaitun's brother, Aryan. He was able to risk everything to save Amani, who was kidnapped in a certain chapter in the book.
Okay.
So there was this. I'm not really a violent kind of person, but for me, I actually enjoyed writing that part because there was a lot of exchange of words related to kidnapping, or related to how to police that kind of investigation procedures, and it felt like, okay, I'm trying to impute a mystery in my book, and it was really fun for me writing that, and I feel that was really interesting, and especially like males who would read the book would probably want to love that part as well.
Okay. Yeah. So how did the book end? Was it tragic comedy, or something?
Oh, it did end tragically for the bad people in the book, but then it was a happy ending
for
for Amani and her family.
Okay, do you want to establish your career in the fiction world or something?
Well, I would have to draw a line from here because I want a career in medicine, not writing.
Okay. Now let's go back to what you're studying at the moment, because I'm trying to compare and contrast what drew your attention into starting writing, even though you said as long as you can put a sentence together, you've been writing. So you're a science student. Um, in what ways do you think you can merge these two career paths? I would say it might not be a full-time career for you writing, but then I knew that medicine is really a tasking course to study and to even do further study in it. So how do you intend to get the balance between the two?
At first, I actually thought I would not be able to because I've heard this kind of questions like, especially even from my parents, like, you're a science student, why are you doing this? This kind of stuff. Although, of course, they encouraged me in it. And I would like to answer this question because I actually found a motivation by reading a book written by a doctor. I think he's a very well-known doctor, Dr. Ben Carson. He is a lot of things. He's a surgeon. He's a neurosurgeon. He's a pediatrician. He's a lot of things. He owns a hospital. I think John Hopkins. No, actually, he kind of worked there. So he wrote a lot of books on how his chronotomies went and a lot of surgeries that he did, and he wrote books about them. There's one of his books, my favorite, Gifted Hands. He spoke about how he tried to balance the risks of doing a surgery or not doing a surgery. And honestly, reading it, I could actually picture him there on the surgery table doing his thing. So I felt if a doctor could so much describe in intricate detail how he could do everything, then why can't I also write something? Because writing is just a talent, and if a medical doctor's work is actually more of practical, I feel if he could write it down that way and it should look like, okay, I'm just watching something, then I think everybody can do it. And although I try not to beat myself up by thinking I wish I could write like he did, because he's a very good writer. Because only Picasso can paint a Picasso painting. Only I can write a mean story. So
Aside Ben Carson, who is that person that motivates you a lot? I know that your parents should be one. So details.
Well, it's not really a person because I find my motivation in books really.
Okay.
And I actually had this. It was kind of not really a journal or a book per se, but it was just something I used to write. Okay, a list of books I wish to read in a year or in a month, or the list of books I've read or heard somebody talking about, which actually is kind of gripping. So what I do is, if I read a book and it interests me, I try to find out some specific things about that book that can, make me, I can like kind of impute this in my life in a certain way. Aside that, there's this particular book by Malcolm Gladwell. I think it's called Outliers: The Story of Success. It gives this message that if we can find out what makes people successful, we'll be able to produce more happy and successful people. So these kind of words or little captions, or there's just a line that somebody can use to change your life. So I find my motivation in other people's books.
Okay.
And I'm not really much of a watcher, but then there are a lot of motivational speakers out there who always tell you, if you can do it, just try it, or never let anyone tell you otherwise, stuff like that. And motivational speaking is actually what gets me. So that's actually where I find my motivation.
Okay. 5 years going into this. Can you tell us the mundane details of writing?
Writing for me actually has less boring details. I think like some writers feel they have to write every day, but that's not the same for me, because if you try to force yourself to write every day, you might end up writing crap, and writing something that's not worth it is discouraging to me. So I try to write something that's solid. And when I'm writing, I actually find my peace and my muse whenever I'm taking tea, coffee, ice cream, chocolate. But like specifically tea, it's just, it can never be like overstated how it can affect my muse. So honestly, that's just one of the reasons why, if I cannot have at least something to eat or tea or something, I don't know, something that just calms me down, something refreshing, then my muse is kind of
Okay, so it's
really.
obvious you don't write every day. So what's the
I don't
interval
write.
between your writing?
Honestly, it doesn't really have an interval because I only write when I'm on holiday or when I'm on break, so that I can bridge between my studies and my writing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Sometimes there's a day that I can write a whole chapter. There's a day I, only get a word or three words to fit in. There's a time that there's only a line in it, and sometimes I just don't get anything at all. And I don't force myself to do it because I have other areas of my life that need addressing. Like I have to do maraja of my hips, else it slips away, or you know life goals, school, education assignment, house chores, stuff like that. So I don't really force myself to have to write every day.
With this, we'll go on a short break. We'll return shortly, and we'll be taking a message from Hanana Nigeria Limited. Welcome back. We just took a message from Hanan Nigeria Limited, and if you're just joining us, we're talking to Maryam Mairiga, a young poet. I don't know if she's got the ambition to become an author, a renowned author, and across the globe. Considering the fact that one of the best authors around the world is one person that motivates her into writing. So, this particular book, when did you start writing it? Like when? What was the motivation that gave you, okay, I'm starting to write about this today? Even though you said in the first place it wasn't supposed to be a book, you're just writing something for yourself, much more like an escape or something. So when exactly did you start penning down?
I started penning down stuff when I was in primary 5,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that was my first exposure to anything literature. We were asked to write something for our school magazine, and I wrote a poem. I didn't even know at that time, honestly, that it was a poem. It was a
Mm-hmm.
teacher that guided me towards that, but it ended up being a poem, so I gave it as a piece, and it was published. And I never expected myself to be so happy to find something I've written on paper. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, at that age, I was wowed by it. So I said, okay, maybe I could continue writing. But for a year later, I just never did anything. But when I came to my secondary school, my current school, Starfield College, those teachers that were interested in literature and saw that talent in me, they pushed me, and they gave me different reasons why I could do it. And
Mm-hmm.
I guess I was you know contented with what they said, and I started writing, well, I should call it serious anthologies, or poetry or books or anything, prose. I started writing, that was 2017, and it was around the end of the year. I remember taking a nap during the day, and when I woke up, it was like I had a dream, but it was like in pieces. So trying to remember the pieces, I just wrote a few lines about, okay, I could remember this, I could remember another thing, and I could remember another thing. So a day later, I was trying to arrange my backpack for school, and I saw that paper that I wrote the dream about. I was like, oh, what's this? And I'm like, I remember writing this, and lo and behold, it was like, it was rhyming, but then not really, it wasn't really making sense. So that was actually the first accidental poem that I wrote.
Okay.
So from there, I gave it to a teacher, and he was amazing. He was, um, surprised that I could actually write something solid. So from there, I think it just exploded. I started signing into poetry hubs. Yeah, and there I was going for competitions almost every month in my school, debates, because I kind of had, this kind of strong will for having an opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So I went for debates. I participated in quizzes, competitions, in and out of my school, and I guess I'm here today.
Well done. Considering the fact that this is your first book, do you intend to be an author?
Like I said earlier, it isn't what I want to do as a career, but then I think I can do both at the same time. I can multitask it.
Mm-hmm.
I can, like, for example, now I'm writing another book, and it's supposed to be a book about how I'm going to start my medical school, inshallah, till the end of it, and maybe extend into more. So I feel like I can do more than one thing at a time. I
Okay.
feel like I can venture into sciences, like I want to study medicine. I can venture into arts, like I have by publishing a book, and I can also venture into commerce by opening a coffee shop. So
Mm-hmm.
I feel I can do a lot of things at the same time. Also want to, inshallah, try to open an Islamia, because for me, reading is not just about literature, English, or text.
Mm-hmm.
I love the language of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi
So,
wasallam, Arabic language, and I was cajoled to drop it in school, like, because you offer 9 subjects and you can choose between Arabic, economics, technical drawing, and some other things. But I'm the only female Arabic student, and I think we're just two in our class. And in our set, I'm actually the only Arabic student. So
okay.
I feel I want to open an Islamia with that too, because Alhamdulillah, I have the knowledge of most of the basic books that you're supposed to learn in this between my nursery to this age. And I've also started learning the tafsir of the Quran, because after completing the memorization of the Holy Quran in 2020, we proceeded to going with tafsirs. So I think I want to just try to venture into every area and contribute my quota to the society.
Society. For a teenager, this is really a lot. And I'm still trying to process in my brain how you got to this point. Is something commendable, and you should keep it up. You should never allow anyone to say you can't do it. Just like you've heard from renowned scholars saying that you're the barrier between you and your goals. So if you decide to take action, you're going to get there. So now let's go into a bit of the other side things that you would like to do, like coffee shop. You've memorized the Quran. What would you say about your peers that you're in the same age? How do you feel being that young lady that's memorized the Quran and you're now learning tafsir?
Well, starting with my peers, I wouldn't say they were the reason why I started poetry,
Mm-hmm.
because they weren't, but then they led to it in one way or the other. There was this time in my JS3 when we didn't really have a problem, but because I was against all this TikTok, I was against going out without hijab. So I kind of got this kind of thing from my classmates, which surprisingly, coming from a Muslim, society,
Mm-hmm.
they just took it as anytime I'm asked to speak, because as I mentioned earlier, my school just tried to make us stand out, myself and a certain specific people. So they would call us to, okay, give a speech on the importance of something, deen related things,
Mm-hmm.
or take the character education for the school today. So I would emphasize on the halals and harams of TikTok and stuff like that, TikTok especially. And I got so much hate from my classmates that year. That was 2019, to the extent that they'd like kind of isolate me in the class, or like push my chair to the. I've never said this to anyone, surprisingly, push my chair to the back of the class or things like that. And it was hurtful. So that was my way of starting to just write down whatever I felt.
Mm.
So, but surprisingly, also at this moment, they're trying to be happy for me and accommodate that. Okay, I've achieved this lot, and the congratulations and everything. But one thing I know deep down is everybody should just keep it in their minds that when they're trying to achieve something, there are a lot of obstacles that come in people's way. And coming back to your other question, the other
Mm-hmm.
side of the question, could you
Mm-hmm.
please repeat it?
The memorization,
Okay, the
like the
memorization
impact,
part.
yeah.
It's really impacting because I just have one friend who I memorize the Quran with. Her name is Fatima. I actually enjoy sitting with her and discussing things like, well, do you remember the tafsir of this, or do you remember the hadith that said this about this or that? And I find that she's actually one of the people, because these people that I have are friends, but they don't act like friends when they're supposed to,
Mm-hmm.
because they will just be talking about irrelevancies,
Things.
and I find it very entertaining when I'm speaking about that kind of thing with her, because at least there's somebody you can talk to it about. So memorizing the Quran was not easy. Astaghfirullah, it was not easy because I was juggling school.
Mm-hmm.
There's another Islamia I attend, Mu'adh bin Jabal. Um, I've started. I think I don't even remember when I started it, because I think I grew up in it.
Mm-hmm.
So and then I had to juggle through this same Hifz Islamia. So it was kind of not really the process where people would just go to a 1 year Tafiz school and it's closed and that's all, you don't have to go to school. So it wasn't that way for me. And there are some times when the asatis will be like, this year we're not going to, nobody's going to increase or add another story. You're just going to have to do Murajia. So that was what took me to like, from 2017 till 2020. But as an added advantage again, I'm able to, complete any verse and I can, translate the meaning, especially, the Meccan
Surah.
surahs. So I feel that is not what everybody can do, and I feel that's what makes me feel standing out.
I should call you a genius, really, because it's a lot to do. Like, I'm still trying to process the fact that when you were trying to do some certain things right, your classmates or your peers are trying to push you to the back seat. How did you deal with that? Because as an adult, sometimes when I'm trying to do a particular thing the right way and people around me are trying to negate it, make it look like you think you're the most pious person or
They're the
something like
saint
that, I
of
feel like going back and like, okay, what can I change to make them come to my fold and all that. As a young person, how did you deal with that? And you were not getting into some serious thinking that would derail you from your ambition of memorizing and being that setting the strict parts of piety among your among the young people in your class.
So, what I did at that time, to be honest, a little bit panicked because I was like, why are they kind of distancing themselves from me? So when I sat down, I realized that, oh, it's because I have this certain problem and I just have to tell you the truth no matter what. So it's just left for the person to take it or leave it. So we have this maybe problem with me thinking I just want things to go the right way or my own way per se. So that was when I met this teacher by name Mr. Dino. He introduced me to the like skill. I don't know, maybe for him, he wanted it to be a form of therapy for me. Like whenever I was thinking something or they were, trying to distract me during my study time or something, I should just pick up a pen and paper, pretend you're writing something. That was what
Okay.
he told me.
Okay.
And by pretending I was writing something, I actually ended up writing what I was feeling at that time. And that was how I actually went deeper into poetry.
Okay. So can you put a name to the genre of your writing?
Actually, because I'm not an art student and I have not studied the genres of literature, so I don't think my writing has a specific genre because at a point I just write and whatever happens to be the end product of my writing, I find somebody like a teacher or a student of literature and ask, hey, what do you think this should be under? And they try to name it for me or help me name it or even try to teach me how to name it, which is kind of life so not learned. So I then, classify it under that,
Okay.
depending on.
So do you intend to focus on a particular genre, considering that you're going to be studying medicine and there are lots of things to write in that field?
Yes, there are lots of things to write about in medicine, and inshallah, I am planning on writing a book related to hematology, which is what I want to specialize in. So I don't want to limit myself to a specific genre of writing because I cannot control my emotions because I'm kind of an emotional writer. So I don't think I'm, given that control. The Almighty has not given me that control of my emotions to be able to write in a specific way. But if it is necessary in future, then I'll probably think about limiting myself to a specific genre. But for
Or
now,
you
I have
write
not
more in
thinking.
that genre than
Yes,
others?
there's a probability.
Oh, great. It's been nice talking to you, but I want to go back into coffee shop. How do you intend to materialize that?
Okay, so I am a tea lover, and it's actually just of recent that I actually found out that coffee is much better than tea because I don't think I was allowed to take that because of the caffeine
In
content.
it.
Yeah, so and this was actually supposed to be a school project, a catering craft practice project for my last term. So we were supposed to write a blueprint for a catering business. And the first thing that came to my mind was tea, coffee, beverages, So I would like to expand that in the nearest future, inshallah, and come up with something legit that people around me would enjoy and I want to, stand out. Like I always have this you
Urge.
know, urge to stand out. So I wanted to be a non-Nigerian thing. There's this thing about our fellow Nigerians that once something looks out of this world, we're in for it. So
Yeah.
I just wanted to have that standing out ability, and inshallah, I know it will be a huge hit.
Okay, so what other things interest you before we call it a wrap?
Honestly, I don't think there are other things because it's just reading, writing, poetry. I love poetry. I love poetry. I love poetry.
Okay. This is the book. How many pages is this?
160.
Wow, that's a lot. Okay, so 160 pages. If you're in Abuja and you've got time, you could go to this book launch and get your copy. And inshallah, we hope that Mariam is going to put this on the Amazon where you can buy the soft copy and you can go through it to support a young star that chose this path, even though she's going to study something different, career wise and all that. It's a lot. And if you've got a message to young stars like you, young people like you, who, like you said, social media is taking a big blow on a lot of young people where they are not able to prioritize things. Maybe their books, maybe going to Islamic school and all of that. The social media is taking the best part of them. What message would you like to give out to young people like you out there?
So my message to a lot of people out there, especially youngsters like me, is to do the right thing at the right time, because there's time for everything. There's time for, social media. There's time for reading. There's time for, the Islamic part of your life, which is even the most important. You have to give more priority to that. Your dreams, as long as they're legit, they're halal, in line with our customs and traditions and the values that our society upholds, then they're legit, and you shouldn't allow anyone to tell you anything else. Don't allow anyone to tell you otherwise. Encourage yourself by motivating yourself and your friends as well. And inshallah, whatever you set as your goal, you'll be able to achieve.
MashaAllah, thank you. So, and quickly, would you like to venture into creating short videos to enlighten or give motivation to young people like you?
Yes, of course. I've actually am starting an Instagram account where I would be speaking about lifestyle, societal problems, and anything that actually comes in handy, because they're just problems that surface in this conventional society. So anything that I feel needs to be spoken about, inshallah, I'll try to talk about it. And I'll also be showcasing my poetry there as well.
It's been nice talking to you, Maryam Umar Mairiga. I'm really excited to put this out and let young people know that you can do whatever you set your mind to do. And it's connect the dots with this speaking to Maryam Umar Mairiga, a young poet, will I say, and even author, because it seems she's going to continue in this line. Many thanks for joining. See you again next week, and ding ding.